the truth of the matter, and you said it so well, Dr. Vibe, there are countless Black, African slash Caribbean students, international students who are here in our cities who are struggling.
It's hard to know because we don't have like the data to say what is the state of Black health before and after, and that's something that we've been advocating for, right? We need better race-based data that's done in a way that serves us, because race-based data has been collected on different groups in ways that actually cause harm, but we need it to be done with us in a way that serves us.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that movement, we've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And we are broadcasting live on a rainy, dark, stormy Sunday, October 19th. We got a whole pile of rain in the last hour, so I guess it's cooling off. We had some nice warm weather for a day or two. We are back into the coolness, but it is fall season, so it's to be understood. And we are here on Black Canada Talking, where I'm going to replace Black Canada. Just say Cesar Ndema-Moussa, because I got my English lesson after 5 years, my French lesson after 5 years, where he gives his takes on and POVs on things that we believe should be of importance that Black Canadians should know about. So, Cesar, how are you? And sorry for 5 years of mistakes. Do you forgive me?
My brother, it is me, and thank you always for being so gracious. Because too often I forget, and people will know me. Sometimes they read and they're like, "But Cesar, your name sounded in English Ndema instead of Dema," because the accent on the e, right? So no, my brother, of course, and something I always tell our Black people: we should never divide ourselves or be get sensitive over these type of things, as truly it's a matter of language, language from slavery. It's not as if you're saying my name wrong in patois. It's
Uh,
not as if you say my name wrong in Wolof or in Douala. So no, thank you. It's me. I think everybody, no matter how they hear it, it's definitely me. And thank you always for having me. And to our brothers, our sisters, and dear allies, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show, and thank you always for being involved.
well, it's a pleasure and honor to always have you. And I said, you know what? It's Cesar that's giving his take. So why about Black Canadians? It's Cesar. So we just stamp it. Cesar is giving, and when other people come in, we will switch it up. Give me what's been going on in your world, by the way.
Well, it seems like I'm coming down with a flu, which I
Oh,
will absolutely try to fight. Resting. My resting includes going to the gym likely tonight
okay.
and being on the treadmill to kind of sweat it out,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and wiping down everything because we don't want anyone to catch anything.
True.
I don't want to be patient zero of COVID 25. Who knows if whatever could happen. uh, but no, we good. I'm glad. My mother is here, so grandma is here, and she's also looking not only after my daughter, but also the neighbor's daughter, because we often talk about community, a sense of village, a sense of looking after one another, and with neighbors, like our neighborhood here in Orleans has become more diversified,
Mm.
and notably, my daughter is close with Ghanaian, Jamaican, Cameroonian, and other children of mixed background, Haitian children. So yes, I practice what I preach,
Yeah.
and I'm accompanied by my wife, and of course, our daughter is very sociable.
Nice, nice. Question for you. What has been a win that you have had? Can be small or big since the last time you were with us.
Ah, Dr. Vibe, I will just put it like this. Huh, quite interestingly, we were in Florida. We came back from Florida Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening.
Mhm.
And honestly, I'm just glad that wife and daughter had a good trip. Um, but it was interesting talking with the people. So I was, I don't know if shocked is the word, but I was surprised at how so many Latino workers did not speak English at
Mm-mm.
all. And I really mean at all. It wasn't even a kind of or broken or what we call the immigrant English. No, it was literally 2 years, 5, 10 years in the US and no English past hi and thank you. But at
Wow.
the same time, and this sounds very much like kind of like a win for the Trump government and the ICE administration, but no, because truthfully, how can you have workers who don't even speak? I mean, surprise for most people, English is technically not the national language of the US. The US technically does not have a national language, but I think everybody understands the US is an English speaking country, but it's the corporations that hire them that, of course, are not going to invest for these Uber drivers and etc. to learn English. And it just it's not something I expected, as we can easily imagine how it would be quite hard, um, you know, to imagine such a scenario in Canada where we would have an entire population or demographics working in certain sectors and not speak English nor French. So that's something I didn't expect. So on one side, very glad family had a great trip. On the other side, uh, with what I noticed in terms of these low paying workers, and please let us not put the blame on the workers, but the corporations benefiting from the low wages they're paying them, how it notably benefit the Trump agenda and the rhetoric on the migrants stealing jobs that the average white person is not interested in doing, to be honest.
Very true. Well, I'm just happy you got back safe from Florida because anytime, especially someone who I care about, goes down to the United States these days, I'm always having a prayer saying, hope they're treated fairly down there and with respect and they come back safe.
Well, you might have a surprise to hear this. I was racially profiled, but it was not in the US. It was technically here at the American side of the airport customs.
Mm.
So, somehow I was randomly selected for additional security measures, including a search of my daughter's backpack as if, but and you're correct because I recall even in April when I went to the United Nations, there again, I was randomly selected for further security questions. So
Now,
yes,
now,
no, I hear you. I hear you.
if I have your permission to interrupt, was this by American representatives both times?
Yes, but on the Canadian side
But
of
but
the
still,
airport.
But still American representatives though.
Yes, yes, yes.
They watching you, brother. They watching you.
They can keep watching. I'm here. I ain't going nowhere.
I love
I'm
that.
here.
I love that. That's really good. All right, so we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll do some housework, and we'll get into some. There's always stuff going on, and there's always stuff that Cesar is bringing to our attention that many of us don't know about that we need to know about. So we'll be back in 15 seconds.
Check out the Morning Vibe on Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Dr. Vibe Show YouTube channel with Dr. Vibe and Ryan Knight, where they discuss important subjects between themselves or have conversations with people who you need to know about.
So we're not. Hopefully, we can get him to go through the whole session today with no challenges. So let's do first our housekeeping stuff. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. Always to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms I'm a part of. Please email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Cannot forget our good friend who calls in once in a while, Dr. Tashi, or Dr. Tachi. I like to say Dr. Tache. She programs a great YouTube site called Indie Soup TV. And excuse me, it consists of about 25 content creators, independent content creators, which I am one of them. And in about, it's a, probably like 18, 19 months, 25,000 YouTube subscribers. Now realize that only 4% of all YouTube channels have over 10,000 subscribers. Think about that. So she's done it in less than 2 years. So you catch a lot of content that I'm doing and other great independent content creators are doing there. Also, if you want to get in touch with Cesar, his email is there, president at Roots and Culture Canada, and his Facebook handle is Cesar Remy Emery. And one other thing, if you are watching this live, you can certainly call in if you wish. Go to your favorite device, go to your favorite website, go to callme.road.com, put in the code FSPL8L, then hit the next button, and it'll ask you to fill out your name and join the conversation. So if you are up to it, let's do it. But let's have our first conversation piece. We're starting on this side of the border. Canada, Pierre Poilievre's attack on DEI. What is your take on that, Mr. Cesar?
Well, Dr. Vibe, Mr. Pierre Poilievre had talked about DEI, opposing it. Unsurprisingly, as notably the Conservative Party does not recognize systemic racism. Let me point to the fact that there are black conservatives, notably in the Conservative Party, aka blacks in a party that does not recognize systemic racism, which mostly impact black people due to history, but also systemic institutions in society. Okay. So it was indeed part of a campaign pledges to tackle down and eliminate DEI, but truly in the in the same fashion or rhetoric as in the United States with Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. And as such, he who is often referred to as Trump of the North, and even Trump made allusion to him, Poilievre trying to sound like him. He's Maple MAGA, aka MAGA of the North, trying to attack DEI under claims of cutting on government spending or waste is absolutely a facade. It's a charade for what we have to call what it is, a return to an older system that benefits the few being overwhelmingly white men of English descent, aka white Anglo Saxon persons, WASP. And in this such, the fabrication of lies and manipulation regarding DEI, such as, for example, DEI, EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusion or inclusivity, uh, being anti white or handing out jobs, which is completely false. The claims that fighting against DEI is actually to go in the sense of merit is furthermore a total hypocrisy coming from Mr. Poilievre himself. Let us first, before I address Mr. Poilievre himself, let us make sure that people can understand that DEI is neither anti white nor a matter of claiming because you're black or a woman or indigenous or LGBTQ or someone with disability, there, you get the job automatically. Absolutely not. It's to minimize and even if possible to eliminate the barriers of systemic discrimination against those minorities so they can compete fairly against the dominant majority, which overwhelmingly tends to be white men and white women. So DEI is about redressing the systemic inequalities in terms of notably employment, but also access to systems and resources. This coming from Mr. Pierre Poilievre. We know how in 2022, when there was um, the riots, the freedom truckers, as they like to call themselves, and I call them freedom, DUMB, truckers in Ottawa, he went to support them. Would Mr. Poilievre, as then leader of the opposition, have supported these truckers if they were black, if they were Muslim, if they were LGBTQ, if they were indigenous? We all know the answer to that is absolutely not. The leader of the opposition, and notably a conservative leader, would not have gone to support what truly amounted to an insurrection against the officially elected government of Canada occupying downtown Ottawa and notably Parliament Hill for up to 3 weeks. But on a personal level, Pierre Poilievre, then leader of the opposition as of the beginning of this year, going into the elections, shamelessly not only lost his own riding in the Ottawa region, but he got to come back into parliament by being handed out. He was given an easy win into a safe conservative riding in Alberta where he doesn't live in Alberta. And many people who were in that riding really were talking about literally this guy just being given the job. So just as Trump talking about DEI and talking about merit literally put in his administration the most incompetent person to come into the administration, as we can see with Pete Hegseth, what's his name, Patel, the FBI
Ash
director.
Patel. Yep.
Yeah. We can see with the, my gosh, make Linda McMahon in education. I
Yep.
can go names. The most incompetent administration, and please don't nobody get me wrong. I don't do Democrat versus Republicans. I am neither. But to give an example, even when we go back 20 years ago and people disagreed with George Bush Jr.'s administration, nobody dismissed the fact that Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Condoleezza Rice were competent in the work. People disagreed with the politics, but nobody doubted the competency, the qualifications. While with this Trump administration, it's flat out in everyone's face. So we have here Mr. Pierre Poilievre in Canada, leader of the opposition, who lost his riding, and instead of having the humility and honesty to take a seat, to bow down, but he really can't. He has never done any other job since his mid 20s than sit in parliament. He was given a safe conservative riding, which he won. I think it was over 75% or maybe over 80% of votes, to come back to Ottawa as leader of the position. And here he's talking about attacking DEI, attacking woke, basically taking back some of the most toxic element of American culture war, bringing them to Canada to feed on the fear and resentment of people as the economy is bad, as many Canadians have tensions over the aggressive Trump. I don't even want to say American, but it's really Trump rhetoric as Canada, as the 51st state, and notably as we see changing demographics in Canada, notably in the area of Toronto, you see Brampton and anti-Indian racism, etc. So he wants to feed on the fear. He wants to feed on the resentment by attacking DEI when he himself is a very hypocritical portrayal of what he denounces. The very uh, DEI hire.
Question for you, Cesar.
Yes.
What do you think is the short term future for DEI or EDI, as you like to say? What is the short term future in this country from your lens?
Look, there's a matter of elections, aka who's in power, in terms of notably federal programs, grants, and the support or not to train professionals, to train senior leaders as I do. That's one thing. But there is the reality of the society on the ground. Society is changing. There is a matter of birth rate from um, white European descent, Canadians as American, British, French, even Israelis, that cannot be dismissed in relation to immigration and birth rates rising of non white people, not only in the West but worldwide. Society is changing, notably in a global, geopolitical, multipolar world in which, as I gave you the example of Florida, how many Uber drivers did we take? They were all Latinos.
Hmm.
That says something.
Mm-hmm.
So what we are seeing here is when you ask about the short term, the attacks will come, but you will not be able to bring society back to the 1950s and beyond that to the 1920s, as so many of the Trump and Poilievre anti-EDI politicians have as rhetoric. You will not be able to because, and I've always said this, the challenge for those conservative and truly white supremacists, if you deny the existence of systemic racism and you want a return to society as it was in the 50s, you are a white supremacist. What was the reality of blacks, of women, LGBTQ people, indigenous people in the 50s? You are a white supremacist. But I've always said there are two things. If they cannot convince white women to be bearing 5 to 10 plus children like their grandmothers, and if they can convince white men to accept low paying jobs that are usually associated to immigrants, it's a guaranteed failure. It's a guaranteed failure. And I'm not talking here about a failure in the sense of Margaret Atwood's, I'm forgetting the name of the book, uh, the book she wrote recently, the TV show
Oh, The Handmaid's Tales.
Handmaid's Tale. Thank you so much. That's not what I'm talking about per se. I'm talking about deep socio-demographic changes in which, as I'm saying, society has changed. We are seeing not only so many more interracial couples, but I'm talking even whites adopting black children. I'm talking about black representation, minority representation. I'm talking about people advocating for themselves in the age of the internet, in the age of mass information, mass education, mass communication. And we will talk about it in our upcoming next two topics, actually. People will stand up. People must stand up against these. Playing on fear, playing on resentment, he is always popular among populists who lack content because they must lie. When Pierre Poilievre attacked DEI in Canada, the question is, why couldn't you be honest and brave enough to accept your seat and retire from politics or go become a consultant somewhere? No, you went to take a safe conservative riding in Alberta where you don't live that was just handed out to you. Isn't that the claim that he makes about DEI, that people with DEI get handed jobs? What black person, what Muslim, what indigenous person, what LGBTQ person, what disabled person can say they were just given a job, they were given a job just by status of the identity? That is not the reality of the world we live in.
Well said. Well said. We'll see what happens because this subject, especially, well, we see what's going on in the United States, where it's almost a total reversal, and and we'll see how much infiltrates north of the
It,
border.
it,
Go ahead.
and it will change because there's something we must not forget is that Poilievre is doing this notably to attack Prime Minister Carney, who is in a vulnerable position of a minority government, an economy that is very, how do you call that? An economy that is shaky, to say the least, considering also US tariffs,
Yeah.
but also, like I said, the growth of hate in our societies. It's very much to attack the Carney government, the budget delivering, to provoke early elections in which he can feed off the fear and resentment. That's what it is. It's a political move. He himself is the very representation of being handed a job just because you are the white guy conservative. We put you in this riding. When you lost in your own riding where you've been for over 20 years.
Good point. All right, we are going to take a 15-second break, or quick break, so Cesar can either, if he needs to just get some more energy, because our next two topics are going to be pretty intense. I know Cesar wants to bring it. So we'll be back in 15 seconds.
You are watching Black Canada Talking, where Cesar Ndema-Moussa gives his takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to Black Canadians. Stay tuned.
All right, we are back on Black Canada Talking with our good friend Cesar. And yesterday on October 18th, there was No Kings 2 protests that were in the United States. And it seems that millions and millions of people attended. Cesar, what is your take on these No Kings protests?
Well, I support them. Let me start by that. But I have to say a little something here. I find interesting that Donald Trump, from where he was golfing, had to mention that at the end of the protest, he's still the president. So there is no king effectively per se. And some of the representative of the MAGA Republicans talking about how uh, the very fact that this protest could occur is the proof that there is no king in the United States. Look, we have to be honest. These protests are capital in terms of defining what America is. What is America? America is a nation born very much out of the rejection of a king rule over the people. We're talking about New England colony in the 1770s and the rejection of King George III of England to basically say a government by the people for the people, not a government subject to a king on the other side of the ocean. So this protest is very much American. This is not at all as Mike Johnson, the leader of the House, and other Republicans try to claim that these protests are in support of Hamas sympathizers, terrorist sympathizers, or even Antifa. FYI, Antifa is not a movement; it's an ideology which people should agree to, because Antifa literally means anti-fascist. Are you for fascism? Notably, as a black person, how can you ask me if I'm for fascism? So, if you're against fascism, you are Antifa. It's not a organized movement with like a leader and sections. No, it's a mindset, a movement. Now, to go further than that, it is said that if I'm not mistaken, 25 or over 2,500 protests that brought down over 7 million people. And in New York, there was up to I think it was two times more people were attended than expected. And we have to add also in New York, the very context of the mayor election of Zoran Mamdani versus um, former governor and a man accused of many things, Governor Cuomo. But Dr. Vibe, do you know that there were also protests in other countries, such as in France? There were protests in support in other countries because indeed American politics, we cannot deny this, impacts so many other countries. And as such, the very politics of Donald Trump really, really are coming closer than ever to authoritarianism. I was watching former President Barack Obama on a podcast in which he notably talked about um, the use of the military in states to quash protest by using some outdated 19th century insurrection act. And Obama really gave this parallel in terms of, can you imagine what Fox News and the Republicans would have said if he had decided to use the National Guard or the Army to quash protests in Texas because there's crime in Dallas? Impossible. Impossible to imagine and to accept. So these protests, No Kings protests, we can see how Donald Trump more effectively, notably through Russell Vought, aka Project 2025, purposely aims to dismantle the democratic nature of US government. And by democratic nature, let's be honest, I've said it since the first Trump term, Donald Trump is exposing to the world how shaky the US democracy is. The US democracy, which the world was convinced was the strongest, most solid, is being baffled and brought down by an entertainer billionaire as Donald Trump. and multiple time bankruptcy, um, bankrupt man, a multiple time convicted felon, and a statutory rape, aka statutory sexual assault, aka rape, uh, convicted man. I mean, I can go down the list, including fraud, including insurrectionists, including for Christians who support Trump, very much anti-Christian behavior, and this man absolutely aims to turn America into an authoritarian state, as he doesn't hide his admiration for men as Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim 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 Jong Il, etc., etc. So yes, it is absolutely understandable that people stand up stand up for him and continue to protest. I told you, Dr. Val, that it will be a hot summer, winter is coming, and truthfully, as many people, more and more people are saying, we are only 9 months into this administration. More is coming. Much more is coming.
Excellent. Also, for people who are watching live on the replay, in the corner, you see there's QR codes. If you want to swipe your QR code, it will get in contact with me on all the things I do. And also, if you swipe on the QR code that's in Cesar's area, it'll take you to his Facebook site. Uh, I want to ask you your lens on something. There's a political commentator that he said, nah, these protests are all good, but he said that it'd be more effective if all the protesters got in together in Washington, because and this person was paralleling it to the how the Martin Luther King march back in his time, he had all the people in Washington. Do you feel it'd be a good strategic move for these organizations, the No Kings organizations, to have one big protest? Do you feel that'd be more effective than having protests in every state of the country?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I respect the thought. I absolutely respect the thought, but absolutely not. Can we imagine? We go back 5 years ago. If Black Lives Matter protests had only happened in Washington instead of being across the US, instead of being also in Canada, instead of being global, we live in a different world than the 1960s of our dear leaders, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, just as Brother Malcolm X. It's a different world. It's not the world of the Thomas Sankara and Kwame Nkrumah, nor even of so many of our leaders that we adore and whose memory is with us. Can we imagine, if we go back, for example, in the 80s and 90s, can we imagine the end of the apartheid if there were no global protests around the world? If artists, white artists notably, had not stepped up to protest against racism in South Africa, against apartheid. So, in this world that we live in, this connected world that we live in, it becomes that much more important that people can mobilize anywhere and everywhere, because not everybody can make it to Washington. Not everybody will feel safe to be in a massive crowd of people. And I'm not just talking here about, maybe a mass crowd movement, etc. People should be able to, walk down the street or go to the downtown or the small city or bigger city and be able to voice their opinion, be able to say they oppose the way the country is going in. We have to understand something also here very important. We live in an age of internet. We live in an age of interconnectivity. We live in an age in which one does not need to be in Washington to feel the same pain as the neighbor on the four corners of the nation. In the same way as when we talk about, we were just talking about Pierre Poilievre, attacks on DEI. We are on this side of the border, and even in this side of the border, we see a rise of white supremacy. Even on this side of the border, we see a rise in hate speech. Even on this side of the border, we see so many of the cultural war elements that we see in the States, just not at the same level. And as I say this, on the other side of the ocean, in London, a few weeks ago, they had a large anti immigration protest by white supremacists. Don't get me wrong. I am not saying that simply because you're white and you attend a protest, let's say even against immigration, that means you are white supremacist and you're a racist. Oh no, 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 no. Just as participating in a Black Lives Matter march does not mean that you're a Black Panther or doesn't mean that you're Pan Africanist. Cannot dismiss the fact that in this world that we live in, people can feel indeed and rightfully mobilized no matter where they stand. And that is something that we should support because also when we have the media crews, when we have notably a Supreme Court under Justice Roberts, which is really under the thumb of Donald Trump, when they see the mobilization around the United States, they get the sense of the country, where the country is going in. Let's add something very important here. Donald Trump's popularity, all all censuses, all surveys are indicating that it's plummeting. When even Fox News can no longer hide such, it speaks volume. So when we add things such as, example, Pete Hegseth going from making comedy of military leadership, addressing beards and big bellies upon generals that they brought from around the world, and then going with the Pentagon initiative for journalists to censor themselves, the major news outlets, aka legacy media, but even Fox News, refuse to sign it. Refuse to sign it. It takes courage to stand up, and you get even more courage when you see others standing up. Let's be honest. If we go back 5 years ago, how many people would have come down to protest for Black Lives Matter protest if it wasn't in the condition, the context of pandemic, nothing much on TV, and seeing the neighbors and the friends coming down to protest? When I gave in Ottawa the keynote speech for the Black Lives Matter protest, I saw in front of me 10,000 people. Majority of them were white. They felt concerned. They felt that they're part of this society. It wasn't just a black thing. When they saw that video, they felt like, hold on a second. I may not be black, but George Floyd could be my friend. George Floyd could be my neighbor. George Floyd, as I told some white people back then, how much would you like to live in a world of black supremacy? Not a single white person would raise their hand. Of course not. So when we see what's happening right now, and considering that we are only 9 months in, Dr. Vibe, where could the United States could be in a year, in 2 years? Redistricting, trying to fraud the elections because they know the midterm elections are coming.
Yeah.
So all of this is coming into play, and that's why the protest should not just be in one place. Washington matters, of course. Doesn't New York matter? Doesn't LA matter? The states in the South, don't they matter? I mean, when Donald Trump is making cuts on healthcare, what states tend to be the poorest in the United States? Southern Republican states. These MAGA voters, these Trump fans, I've said it many times, when the cuts to healthcare and the tariffs and economy starts to hit their own families, and Dr. Vibe is getting colder, winter is coming, and then it's Christmas. You know that time when you buy gifts and all that.
Hmm.
They're gonna start to.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting in these. See what is the next step for these protesters? They've done two. They've got increasing numbers. What's going to be their next step?
Well, the biggest factor fueling those protests is called Donald Trump, as he refuses, and I'm saying refusing. I don't think he can, and I don't think he cares to change his politics.
No,
Not
it
only
does.
because his politics, well, yeah, his politics and his rhetoric brought him back to power. Now, we need to be a little bit careful here. I'm going to give Donald Trump a little bit of grace The weakness of the Democratic Party is appalling. When I'm saying Democratic Party, allow me not to put everyone in the same bag, as notably we have the Illinois governor, Pritzker, if I'm not mistaken, California governors, Newsom, but also Bernie Sanders, just as AOC, and of course, our sister Jasmine Crockett. So I'm not putting all the Democrats in the same bag, but it is appalling to see how weak they are in light of what everybody saw coming. It is really, really shocking. Even Donald Trump said so. He was surprised at how easy and fast he's able to move. No Kings anti Trump protest, part three is guaranteed. And more people, I expect more people to be mobilized, notably more pro Trump people will start to feel the cuts. When they're cutting all these thousands of jobs, they're also cutting on people who did vote for Trump.
Yeah, it's going to be. I don't think he really cares, to be honest with you.
It,
He's just going to move on with his agenda. And
and keep enriching his family on the side
of
until
course,
they lose. But there will be a blowback. There will be a blowback.
one day, I'm sure, one day. Well, it's going to be interesting. How many people, how many more people are going to be disenfranchised or impacted by the next time we check, because things are moving so rapidly. They also have that Supreme Court voting on the Anti-Race Voting Act. If that gets taken away, the Republicans say they're going to gain up to 20 seats. That means they're going to win the next midterm. It's going to be a full sweep again.
Many things can happen, Dr.
Yep,
Vibe. Many things can happen. And of
absolutely.
course, they will try. They will try. I said it. The
All
four
right.
men who gave Trump the power that he had: Mitch McConnell, Joe Biden, Mary Garland, and Supreme Court Justice Roberts. But a lot will happen.
All right, let's move to our final conversation piece because I know Cesar needs to conserve his energy. Something I was not aware of until Cesar gave me this topic: Gen Z protests in the future of the continent that's happening in Africa. Give us a lens on this, Cesar.
So before we start talking about so much Africa, we need to give credit to Gen Z, aka people born between 1996 and 2010. Basically, people who grew up with the internet. And there's a movement of protest really starting 3 years ago, 2022, and notably centered in terms of Nepal. The Nepalese government attempts to cut off social media that really mobilized young people, but it didn't mobilize young people just because social media was being cut off. This is not what it's about. Young people rising to protest against social inequalities, against mass corruption of failed leaders, and notably in the age of social media, the lavish lifestyles of the children of politicians. Meanwhile, the masses are struggling. The masses are poor. We're talking about Gen Z protests from Nepal, but also in Peru, in Bangladesh. And as a follow-up of movements that happened even before, when you look at how the internet, so social media, uh, became instrumental in terms of Occupy Wall Street, in terms of Black Lives Matter, in terms of even the Hong Kong democracy movement. We can see all this coming together, and it has had very good results. When you look at, for example, the political mess in France with the destabilized state. As 2 weeks ago, the protest called Bloquons Tout, aka Let's Block Everything, as people are protesting social inequalities. They're protesting how the richer keep getting richer while those more in the middle class keep shrinking and those who are poor keep getting poorer. These protests in Africa have notably been marked. Let me give notably two countries here: Morocco, Northern Africa, Gen Z 212, 212 in reference to the International Code for Morocco, but also in Madagascar. In Morocco, protesting, for changes in terms of society, in terms of law, as they notably have the king. So it's not the king who's going to leave, but in Madagascar, it led to a change of leadership, political leadership on the island as a military leader became very recently. We're talking about today's today's Sunday, so we're talking I think Friday maybe. A military leader became president. But why the focus on Africa? As I've said many times, and we are in 2025, Africa demographic boom is projected to not only keep increasing, but the projections are that by year 2100, one third of human beings will be African. I didn't say black. I'm not counting black Brazil. I'm not counting blacks of the Americas. I'm not counting more and more black consciousness rising in India and Asian and Pacific Ocean countries. I'm just talking specifically about the continent. When you have one third of the humanity, which by the end of this century is likely to be African, and we have these protests of young people, 1996 to today, that would mean the person would be, if I'm not mistaken, the person would be at the very most 29 years old. So people born between 1996 to 2010. 2010, today, the person will be 15 years old. So 15 years old to 29 years old, demanding changes to society, addressing not only misgovernance, corruption, climate change, security issues, wealth redistribution, education investment. These are basically what's been going on. When you think about how Bangladesh has a situation where you have, and this is very tragic, the clothes that we wear here, um, how do they call it again? Cheap fashion or fast fashion, being cheaper here. Oh, sorry, Dr. Vab, I couldn't hear you.
No, no, it's fast fashion, fast fashion. Yeah.
Fast fashion. The clothes that we wear here being mass produced in country like Bangladesh in terms of the retail industry, but the security measures are so bad, a factory fire kills people. When you have situations growing, even in the second largest economy as China, and yet you're having this growing crisis in terms of single people going alongside with the fact that the lack of quality employment. It's important to understand when it comes to Africa, if these situations are not better managed by governments, and I'm talking governments, many of them being there as vassal states of Western nations, of Arabic nations, and really relying on Russian and Chinese help. If these issues are not addressed, only two things can happen for the African continent. Either they become better managed and Africa can truly enter the 22nd century. Notice, Dr. Vibe, I'm not talking about the 21st century. I'm looking 75 years down the road when you and I, most likely, will already be dead. I'm talking about entering the 22nd century, putting with the continent with the largest demographic and such a young demographic full of potential, full of talent, in which industrialization, but also education, just as government infrastructures must be working, or we keep seeing the brain drought, we keep seeing scenes such as Africans dying in the Mediterranean Sea, seeing such things as cyber scam, online scams because of poverty, organized crime, because if he fails, it's all of that that will happen, but also civil unrest in those countries. When you think about Egypt, Congo, Nigeria, Ethiopia, the demographic boom that's bound to happen, if the population's needs are not better addressed, it's only chaos that's to happen. and it will spill into the nearby countries. So this is why, to me, it's very important that we pay attention to these protests, because you know, revolution does not happen by people of our age. Revolution happens by those who are looking ahead at the years to come, at the future, and they're getting a sense of hopelessness. It's not even so much anger or hate against the government, such as uh, the Republican tried to paint the No Kings protest. No, they're looking and they're seeing hopelessness about having a brighter future than the parents did. And we're talking about Gen Z protests, notably in Africa, but it's global and it will come over here. It will come over here. We're just talking about the US with this administration, but it will come over here because if wealth redistribution is not better addressed and social inequalities keep increasing, what do you think is bound to happen? The cost of life becoming too much, while those who are rich keep becoming richer. That is problematic.
Before I let you go, there's two things I want to bring up to you to see if you want to respond. Remember many years ago, people
Dr.
like,
Vibe, I may have lost you. I'm not
yeah,
sure.
we look like we've lost Cesar. Yeah, we may have lost Cesar for a moment. Let me just message him, see if we can get him back. Okay, let me just send him a message. All right, we'll just see if we can relieve Cesar's technical difficulties. Okay, we are not able to hear him. Let's see if we can work it out on his end. If not, we are at we finish our last topic. So if Cesar is not with us, we can sign it off. Let's see if we will get him back. Okay. All right, it looks like Cesar is having some technical difficulties on his end. So what we're going to do is we are going to end our conversation today. So what we'll do is finish it off. So as always, we want to thank you for taking your most valuable thing, your time to spend with us today. So just a few things before we sign it off today. If you want to get in contact, so let's do this. Okay, I think we've got a message here. All right. Oh, Cesar is back. Cesar is back. You're back. All right. He's not back. Okay. So Norman Radio, as always, Norman Woods Richmond, good to check you out. Walamala, thank you for tuning in. Yeah, unfortunately, Cesar has some technical challenges on his end. So what we're going to do is we're going to just finish it off here. So as always, if you want to get a hold of Cesar, the best way to do that with Cesar is this way. You can get a hold of him via email at president@rootsandculturecanada, Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. A few things with myself. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. If you wanted to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm on, please feel free to email me dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. And if you want to find out more about me, best place to go to is toplink.cc/Dr. Vibe, the Dr. Vibe Show. Everything's there. You can email me, YouTube channel, Facebook, LinkedIn, Substack, all that stuff is on there. And as always, you can catch replays of this epic conversation, Black Canada Talking, at the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Also on the Dr. Vibe Show website, the drvibeshow.com. So as always, as we get ready to sign off, and unfortunately Cesar cannot hear us, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith and walk good.
Just take a quick moment.
Yeah.
You just introduce yourself. Let Dr. Vibe welcome you into the show. As I told
Oh.
you, Dr. Vibe.
No. I welcome and really good to have you here. I didn't want to. You were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt. You were on a roll, but
In an world created by whites, dominated by whites, run by whites, and you're a billionaire, bro. FYI, I don't. It's probably the first time of the year that I use the word bro.
yes, it is. That's the first time, as long as I've known you, you used it.
My daughter would laugh. If she heard me say bro.
But for many people, the economy ain't great. There we go. I saw that.